Hello Heart of Tarot people, and hello my mystery school. Today I wanted to have a look at the question, what would it look like if institutions and authorities responded to climate change the same way they've responded to the coronavirus? Now, astrologically, the outbreak of coronavirus is linked to the Australian bushfires over December and January, because they're all connected to that Pluto-Saturn conjunction that peaked on January the 11th at the beginning of this year, 2020. And along with Pluto and Saturn being conjunct at that time, we had Ceres, the Mother Goddess, the Mother Earth Goddess, who's concerned with cycles and supplies and crops and fertility. We also had Mercury in that same conjunction, which is connected to communications and connections and travel and the way things spread. And we also had Chariklo, a beautiful asteroid that is involved in like a spiritual midwifery practice of holding space while new things are being born. So because the Australian bushfires, which raised that whole thing about climate change, happened at the same time as coronavirus, and happened at the same time as that amazing historical conjunction, that's ultimate aim is to bring down and tear down all and dismantle all the structures and institutions that no longer support us. And in its place, there's this new community that will grow and evolve. One of the results of that is some of those institutions that are being torn down are things like money, governance, the way we look at using the earth for resources, the way we treat our land and environment, our carbon emissions. These are all the things, the way we use supply and demand, the way we're dependent on manufacturing and we're dependent on travel. So I wanted to have a look and see what would it look like if authorities and institutions responded to climate change the same way they've put things in action for the coronavirus. So I'm going to draw 15 cards, and first up a signifier just for the whole thing, judgment. Well, that speaks for itself, doesn't it? Have a look at that. Sorry, there we go. The Judgment Day, Judgment card. This says we've been here before. We actually have to rise up and face what's coming. We're ready to resolve something, ready to move to a new cycle. And what's been dead, we need to let go. But from those ashes, new things are coming up. Judgment card as a signifier represents an inevitable ending. It's also a call to action. You actually have to make a decision and move with this card. So both global events, the bushfires on one hand and the spread of the coronavirus on the other, are this call to stand up and pay attention. Our past actions are being judged. And in this card, the new life is already forming. 3 cards for the Australian bushfires. We've got the Star, the Magician, and the 4 of Wands. This was the situation. According to this, there was a cleansing and a restoring of balance that needed to happen. This is such a beautiful card. It brings hope and offerings. Also, what I see here is the rains that came through after the bushfires, after months and months of those bushfires. The whole east coast of Australia that had been burnt out. The same map showed rain going through all of those areas, and there's no doubt in my mind that that was a result of the prayer and the positive intention that was sent to this country, people praying for rain. So ultimately those bushfires are representing that restoring, healing and balance. The action that took was instantaneous, people getting in there, the outpouring of support, people relying on their own skills, having to be learning to be self-sufficient. We didn't trust our government in this situation, but we definitely trusted the way things opened up for people to communicate and connect and share their skills and resources. We had an amazing response in the wake of the bushfires. And the outcome of that was this opening. I really love this card, the Four of Wands. It's a threshold we're able to step through, cross through. There's communities able to welcome new things in, a celebration. Even, there's not much to celebrate with this, except the community support, the reliance on and sharing that came through, so spontaneous, and the strength and will of our volunteer firefighters. That's the kind of picture we've got from that. That's what we've learned from the bushfires. With the outbreak of coronavirus, we've got the situation, again a celebration card. The action taken was left up to fate, and the outcome, the Lovers. So what I see with this, particularly with this Wheel of Fortune, one thing, part of that outbreak became very problematic because information was held back before Chinese New Year on the 25th of January. And millions of people travelled, potentially carrying that virus and the 14-day incubation period with them. That's what unleashed this fateful thing. And the response to the Lovers is about the commitment, the relationships, the contracts, the agreements and the trust that's made to combat it. So one of the things that's come through is the way commitments have been held or upheld. And I see with both of these events, according to judgment, it's about the way we connect to each other. The Lovers card is a card of choice. And if I look back here, the action taken, too much was left up to fate. There was so much in the timing that meant the choice was taken out of their hands. And with these next cards, I'm going to look at how these events come together. What is the lesson linking these? And how might it look if authorities responded to climate change the way they did to the coronavirus? So our first card is the present, all things breaking loose, the Tower. Sorry, that's not the present. This is a recent past. That's the explosion that's happened with the shock that's happened with both of these, feeling out of our control, and yet we've created this chaos. Next card is representing the present. Wow, the Devil. Temptation, loss, deceit, facing our shameful past, all the things we were chained to. And in its way, both of these events are exposing what was the underworld down here under these institutions. The corruption and the greed and the avarice. In the near future where we're going, Hangman, wow, we need to do something. And this card is saying we're still waiting. This has happened and we're still waiting. The Hang card is a very spiritual card because it's the midpoint of the entire of the Fool's journey. It's the point of realization. And it links very much to the Judgment card in that the Judgment card and the Hanged Man, when the head, the heart and the mind and the soul come together, you have enlightenment. You have psychological breakthrough. The Judgment card, in a way, is a result of what happens when that enlightenment brings action. And this is the action now for the new calling. It's a very difficult card to have there. But it needs this transition phase. It needs things to come together. Though we can't say we haven't seen what's going on. We can't say we don't know. The lesson we recently learned from both of these events and the Pluto-Saturn conjunction is about our wastefulness, our wishing things would just go away, not knowing what we want and not able to commit. This is the illusion and delusion, the smokescreen card. And in a way, that relates to this side of these two reads, because with the coronavirus, action wasn't taken. See, over here, action was taken. Over here, it was left to fate. So that's the lesson we've learned. Living, just thinking things will be all right. The lesson that's moving through us with the Saturn-Pluto conjunction is strength. We can do this. We can so do this. We need to be adaptable. We need to be diplomatic. We need to be able to hold the strength and really look down the jaws of the lion. I've recently come across a quote from Michael Meade, who does this beautiful work on archetypes, where he talks about awaken the roar. He talks about sometimes you have to run into the chasm of the roar against every fibre of your being. You have to run towards the fear because that's where the new form is waiting to grow. So I think this is such a hopeful card in this. The lesson about to move through us is how to have strength. In the tarot, the two cards of conflict, the Chariot and the Strength card. The Chariot is meeting things head on, that clamp down that China had to do to isolate Wuhan and isolate the virus, a real a military type of clampdown, direct action. The Strength card is about the dance. It's about cooperating, understanding both sides, and holding yourself very still and very fair-minded in order to solve the problem, knowing that the problem won't go away and the problem needs our strength. It's a long-term thing. I like also that we've got the figure 8 of eternity, of cause and effect above her head, as we've got here with the response from the Australian bushfires and the climate catastrophe that happened there. This sense that it's in our own hands now. We can't say we haven't seen. This illusion and delusion, the smokescreen is blown. The thing we're not doing very well, Page of Pentacles. Investing in the future. Investing in our young people, supporting them and supporting new structures. We're not listening to written advice. We're not taking care of practicalities. And if we know that part of what we're learning is how to look into that chasm, awaken the roar. Here it says we've got to be able to come back into smaller groups, call in our scattered energies, and invest in small-term innovations, support more community, small-term groups, and definitely look at the future for younger generations. We're not doing that very well, and we need to do it more. To give young people a platform to influence the new institutions and new structures that will arise out of this. What we are doing well is this distribution of wealth. Oh, that makes me so happy as well. There's so many great stories coming out from people of wealth who are able to step down and redistribute what they have. No one needs that much money. In Italy, where the coronavirus has caused the shutdown of the whole country in the last couple of days, the government, one thing they've organised is this practical thing of there's a freeze on mortgage payments. So no one's going to lose their house. if they're unable to work or move or travel. That's the sort of thing that we can do so much better. Part of this lesson from Pluto and Saturn is how we shared resources. And the thing with this card is it's always got these two people kneeling down before someone standing over them, deciding who needs handouts. And I feel very strongly that the archetypal myth of this Six of Pentacles is changing, that these who are on the ground are rising. And this is what we'll see in the future, and more of what's coming in. People, victim shaming and victim blaming is no longer acceptable. More and more is coming to level out the equality, particularly the equality around resources. So from this, I have a lot of hope. I have a lot of hope that the example of the climate change catastrophe over here with the bushfires has opened up a real doorway for us to know how to move through change. The Five of Wands, the next card, is getting your communication, being able to work with division and difference. And that's where we have to go. 5 being that number of change. Something that happened with the response of those bushfires is the way forward. Over here, it's about our choice to commit. What are we committing to? And in the past, we've committed to this greed and avarice and smoke screening and illusion. And we can no longer say we can't see it. I expect small steps forward, and we've got a long way to go with this. This is saying we've got to be in it for the long fight. But when this one changes and enlightenment happens, when the heart, the mind and the soul come together, when that turning point happens, I'll draw a card from my beautiful Love and Mystery deck, just as an indicator of what happens when that enlightenment takes over the small details of people's lives. And we've already had this paradigm shift. What will come after we've transformed out of this cocoon position, this place of suspension that we're held in? Temperance, perfect. This is so beautiful. Temperance is about balance and fluidity, getting the balance right, being able to flow easily in and out, and know that there's enough for all. No one has to hold on and grip tightly. There is enough for everyone. What can come out if we have this change of heart and bring our heart, mind and souls together is true balance, true healing, sharing. And one of the comments that's come up in some of my readings with this is that division is the root of evil with this. We've become such a divided family. And the Temperance card brings back, it smooths out those divisions, just as this one does. And it does it in a more natural, receptive, flowing, humble way. It's acts of service. It's sharing. It's allowing the divisions to be softened and know we really are from one family. I also wanted to have a look with this beautiful Orion's tarot deck about the message the animals who sacrificed themselves in these bushfires, the message from that 1 billion or more animals that lost their lives in that climate catastrophe. What is the message from those sacrificed animals? The King of Swords. This is the raven, the messenger. It carries actually smoke message, works with smudge and smoke. The King of Swords, we have to decide now. The animals are saying the decision must come now. We can no longer have this delusion. The animals are saying that was a turning point. And that those who sacrificed would wish us to make a very clear, forward-thinking, logical decision around how we're going to move through together as a family. So again, I feel very strongly there is hope, but it needs action. We can't trust governments and authorities to lead this for us. The new leaders need to emerge, and they need support and structural support to help their voice be heard. Wishing everyone all the love, support, and blessings. These really are troubled times, but I also think they're really exciting times. We have such an opportunity to change things for the better, and that is such a great thing to know. I'm Merryl Key, and this is my mystery school. You can contact me for a reading or astrology consultation, holistic healing, www.merrylkey.com. Like, share, follow, subscribe, support. Thank you, everyone.